When you received the keys to your first vehicle, how did you feel? Undoubtedly excited and perhaps a little bit anxious. Finally, the entire globe was yours to explore, waiting for exploration. It wouldn't be an understatement to suggest that it altered your life. In fact, 74% of respondents to our most recent poll said that getting their first car actually improved their lives. Similarly, the first car also changed the world. In today's video, the topic of discussion will be the history of the first car ever in the world. Starting the video without any further delay, the first car was created by Benz in 1885, and countless businesses have since emerged in an effort to establish themselves. Though some businesses assert that theirs is the second car, sometimes circumstances are much more complicated than you may imagine. Finding out the truth about the development of the first car in history was a difficult task, because there are many people who can be held accountable. The Benz motor car number 1, the missing connection between automobiles and horse-drawn buggies, can be found if you go back into the past GPS, anti-lock brakes, automatic gearboxes, and even the Model T. The first business to produce an automobile is where it all began. Benz created his first car in 1885, and in January 1886, he received a patent for it. However, the Mercedes brand wouldn't be used until 1901. The patent motor wagon, Benz's first automobile, had just 3 wheels and a 0.75 horsepower, 954cc single-cylinder engine. But in 1893, he created the Victoria, his first automobile with 4 wheels and a 3 horsepower 1745cc engine. The compact high-speed single-cylinder 4-stroke engine mounted horizontally in the back, the tubular steel frame, the differential, and the 3-wire spoked wheels were the main components of the 2-seater car when it was finished in 1885. The engine produced 0.75 horsepower, a regulated exhaust valve, high-voltage electrical vibration ignition with a spark plug, and water or thermosiphon evaporating cooling were among the details. The first long-distance automobile drive was made on an August day in 1888 by Bertha Benz, her 2 sons, Eugene and Richard, and herself, using an updated version without her husband's knowledge. They traveled from Mannheim to Pforzheim, where she was born, through a few side trips. Bertha Benz showed the world the usefulness of the automobile with this 180-kilometer voyage, which also included the return trip. Without her audacity, that of her sons, and the decisive stimulus that followed, it would have been impossible for Benz and Cie in Mannheim to expand to become the largest car plant in the world at the time. A backlash against huge vehicles in the middle of the 19th century slowed development, but certain internal combustion engines nevertheless advanced. Engineers started using gasoline as a fuel and developed 2- and 4-cycle combustion engines, which led to the evolution of the engine. In 1886, Benz created a gasoline-powered automobile and produced numerous identical copies of it. This was the first modern car, a practical vehicle for everyday use, and the first automobile to be produced in large quantities. The Ford Model T, developed by the Ford Motor Company in 1908, served as a milestone for later car production, since it was the first vehicle to be mass-produced on a moving assembly line. One of the more pressing issues with the vehicle was resolved in 1893 when Benz filed for the patent for the double-pivot steering system. The 3-horsepower Victoria, of which slightly more with different bodyworks were made, was the first Benz with this steering system. The Benz Velo, a small, lightweight, and affordable production car, was the first automobile ever made, with about 1,200 units produced. The twin engine was created in 1897 and consisted of 2 horizontal single-cylinder engines operating in parallel was unsuccessful. A superior design, known as the Contra engine, in which the cylinders were placed opposite one another, was quickly introduced. The horizontally opposed piston engine was created in this way. Up until 1900, this unit was always mounted at the back and produced up to 16 horsepower in various configurations. There were attempts to develop steam-powered cars in the 19th century. Handbrakes, multi-speed gearboxes, and improved steering were developed, until regulations like the UK Locomotives Act of 1865 mandated that many self-propelled vehicles on public roads must be preceded by a man on foot waving a red flag and sounding a horn. Certain successful vehicles served as mass transit. For the majority of the remainder of the 19th century, this virtually put a stop to road vehicle development in the United Kingdom. Instead, engineers and inventors focused on making improvements to locomotives for railroads. Despite the red flags requirements being abolished in 1878, the rule was not repeated until 1896. Joseph Bozek, a professor at Purdue Polytechnic, constructed an oil-fired steam automobile in 1816. In 1838, Walter Hancock, a maker and driver of London steam buses, constructed a two-seat vehicle called a phaeton. Henry Seth Taylor, a jeweler from Canada, displayed his four-wheeled steam buggy at the Sunset Fair in Quebec in 1867 and again the following year. The buggy's foundation was a high-wheeled carriage with bracing to hold a two-cylinder steam engine positioned on the floor, which he started building in 1865. Amédée Bollée, a Frenchman, created self-propelled steam road cars in 1873 to convey large passenger groups. The early 1930s saw the zenith of growth for steam-powered road vehicles, including cars and wagons, thanks to quick-steaming, lightweight boilers and effective engine layouts. During World War I, internal combustion engines also advanced significantly, becoming more dependable and easier to use. After steam wagons became unprofitable due to tax changes in the UK, high-speed diesel engines started to replace them for wagons starting in 1930. Although a few designers continued to support steam power, after Doble in 1931, there were no notable advancements made in the manufacture of steam automobiles. A miniature model car powered by an early electric motor developed by a Hungarian named Nyos Jedlik in 1828, the first DC electric motor in America was created in 1834 by Vermont blacksmith Thomas Davenport, who also built a small model car that he drove around a short, circular electrified track. Using non-rechargeable primary cells, Professor Sabrandus Strating of Groningen, the Netherlands, and his assistant Christopher Becker built a small-scale electrical vehicle in 1835. Scotsman Robert Davidson created an electric locomotive in 1838 that could travel at 6.4 kilometers an hour, 4 miles per hour. In 1840, a patent was granted in England for the use of tracks as electrical current conductors, and Lilly later received equivalent American patents. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, when electricity was one of the most prevalent forms of vehicle propulsion, electric automobiles were very popular. The longer range, faster refueling times, and expanding petroleum infrastructure of gasoline cars, along with mass production of gasoline vehicles by companies like Ford Motor Company, which reduced the prices of gasoline cars to less than half of that of equivalent electric cars, led to a decline in the use of electric propulsion, effectively removing it from use. The Nissan Altra and Toyota RAV4 EV were the first production battery electric vehicles to employ NiMH and Li-ion batteries in 1997. The 40 years prior to the current year are typically considered to be the modern period. To cut costs and development time, the contemporary era has seen a rise in standardization, platform sharing, computer-aided design, and the use of electronics for both engine control and entertainment systems. The growth of front and all-wheel drive, the acceptance of the diesel engine, and the pervasiveness of fuel injection are some specific modern advances. The majority of contemporary passenger automobiles have traversely placed engines and are monocoque or unibody designs with front-wheel drive. Fuel economy and engine output have also experienced remarkable advancements in the modern period. Computerized engine management systems have allayed the worries about vehicle emissions. That's all for today's video, guys. What do you think about the video? Tell us your views in the comment section. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, subscribe to Car History. We'll see you in the next video. Until then, bye and have a good day.